Hello and welcome to the Ramblings of a 42-year-old man. Chris Smith here with you today, and we are going to continue our Final Fantasy VII coverage today. We should be able to cover the rest of the game, the story mode, some of the legacy of the game. I think we'll be able to do this in just 2 parts. I don't think we'll jump into 3. So thank you for anybody who was able to watch part 1, yesterday's video. We stopped kind of at a point where we had just taken the Shinra ship from the kind of main continent where Midgar and stuff was at. We've gone over to a new continent, and we'll be jumping through a lot of different towns and set pieces and stuff as we're going forward. I'm going to actually, I think I began this week's video with a little side trip about trying to find one of our optional characters, and then we'll continue the story as we're following Sephiroth and trying to get through the rest of Final Fantasy VII. So please stay tuned. All right, so I will, real quick aside, so the optional character of Yuffie, she can be found in any forested area pretty much in the game. As early as right before you got to Junon, there's some forest there where you could possibly find her. It's a little lower chance to find her there than there is in some other areas, but you certainly can. So then if you do that, you would have your optional character of Yuffie with you at this point. Going forward from Costa del Sol, which is where the ship landed after we were done with the ship trip, we end up on the other continent, and we're kind of following this path around that takes us to the city of Coral, which is where Barret is originally from. There's a lot of backstory that goes along with that. The city of Coral really doesn't like Barret much. We'll find out more about that. The Gold Saucer is this big giant casino thing that's somehow above Coral. So we get up to that. We're told that Sephiroth was there at some point, but he's gone now. There's, again, a whole bunch of backstory stuff with Barret. We get arrested at some point. We have to break out by racing chocobos, and that's a whole big chunk of the game there. But anyway, we get out of the Gold Saucer Coral area. We've got a little buggy to drive now, so we can go around. We'll drop off at Gingaga, where we'll see kind of a busted reactor. We'll also get a little bit of a backstory about Aerith and a former boyfriend she had named Zack. That'll come into play a little bit later. We'll have a little battle with the Turks again. We'll continue going, and eventually we get to Cosmo Canyon, where we'll see some of Red 13's backstory. We'll meet his grandfather, Bugenhagen, who is kind of almost like a seer kind of person. He definitely has an attachment to the planet more than a normal person would have. He also floats for somehow. He doesn't have any legs, so not quite sure how all that works out. But anyway, we get through Cosmo Canyon. We think Red 13 is going to stay because this is, his home now. But Bugenhagen asks him to go with Cloud and our team because he feels that we are the planet's best hope for survival, and he wants Red 13 to go with us. And we'll continue on our way as we go. So our next stop after Cosmo Canyon is Mount Nibel, Nibelheim, which is, again, Cloud's former home. And last time he saw it, and last time Tifa saw it, the city was on fire. They get there now, and it looks like everything's normal. Nobody knows what they're talking about when they tell them about the fire. They say, "What are you talking about? Get out of here. We don't want to hear anything about that." We come to find out that they're all Shinra plants who are there to make whatever happened to that reactor not public knowledge, So, but anyway, it really messes with Cloud's sense of his memory and stuff. So we go down, and if you go down that mountain of the Shinra building, the basement of the Shinra building again, you'll run into Vincent Valentine, who's down there. He's been experimented on by Hojo, and he's being kept down there, and he decides to join us when we tell him that as we're fighting after Sephiroth, we'll probably run into Hojo, and he would really like to take out some revenge on Hojo for sure. So that's an optional character that you can or cannot choose to have come with you. But if you do, then he kind of will be another part of our team. So we're continuing across the mountain of Mount Nibel through the Mako reactor we see there. On the other side of that mountain, we will run into Rocket Town. The good thing with Rocket Town is there's an airplane there, which is kind of what we need to be able to travel more around the world, because at this point we're kind of at the end of the continent, and we've heard that we need to track Sephiroth down to the Temple of the Ancients, and we really can't get there without some sort of transportation. So luckily Sid is there. He's a pilot. He's got a plane. He also has a spaceship. While we're there, Shinra arrives, and they're trying to steal the plane too. Luckily, we're able to get to it before they do. Sid jumps on with us, and he now is our final character. We now should have, if you've gotten your 2 optional characters, our total of 9 characters at this point. And before We jump over the Temple of the Ancients. This is your first time that you could possibly do a side quest involving Yuffie, if you did grab her with you. Over at Wutai, which can be kind of a pain in the butt side quest because you got to do a good chunk of it without any of your materia, but you can get some good equipment and some good materia skills and a good summon if you go ahead and go through that side quest. And the earlier you do it, the earlier you'll get those things and those summons and stuff. And then we'll continue on our way to the Temple of the Ancients. All right, so we get to the Temple of the Ancients, and we learn that the Temple of the Ancients houses the black materia, which Sephiroth wants because he can use it to summon Meteor to come and wipe out the planet. And he wants to wipe out life on the planet except for himself. He thinks that he'll be able to survive because he's so special and keyed in as the cells of Jenova and everything. So we find Sephiroth in there, who takes off after getting the black materia from Cloud, leaving us to fight another Jenova battle. You'll see every time we see Sephiroth up at these points, he flies off somewhere and we end up fighting a piece of Jenova somehow. We'll get into exactly how that works a little bit later. After that, after Sephiroth is taken off with the black materia, Cloud has kind of been knocked out. He has a kind of a dream memory of Aerith taking off to this city of the Ancients, and when he wakes up, we realize that Aerith has taken off to try to kind of fight Sephiroth on her own, or at least try to find a way of fighting Sephiroth on her own. So we go to follow her, and we head up to the north, which is where this city of Ancients is at. We arrive at the city of Ancients just in time to see Aerith is down praying for something. We're not quite sure what at this point, and in probably the most iconic scene in all of Final Fantasy history. I think I mentioned the opera scene was in the top 3. Well, would definitely be your number 1, just based on how many people have played this game versus other Final Fantasies and how big this scene is. Aerith is, spoilers, killed by Sephiroth. And, this, as big as this is, it's not our first time we've had a main character die. I mean, even Tella in Final Fantasy IV we played in quite a bit, but then you had Galuf in Final Fantasy V as well. But this one just felt so big, the ramifications of it, and the fact that if you've been playing as Aerith for a long time now, all of a sudden this character that you've really had for a majority of the game is now gone. So again, one of the biggest and most well-known scenes in all of Final Fantasy takes place. And of course, we're going to continue following Sephiroth now, not only to try to stop him from whatever his plan is, but also to get vengeance for what's happened with Aerith. Okay, so we continue north, going through a bunch of little different side things. There's snowboarding, there's mountain climbing, there's this big frozen wasteland that we have to try to navigate. There's a whole bunch of stuff in between Aerith's death and getting to this North Crater. But eventually we do get up to the North Crater, which we find out is the area where Jenova, who is actually an alien being, it's kind of similar to Lavos back in Chrono Trigger, right? Had crashed down onto the planet. And so this crater is kind of a way to get down into the life stream where all the Mako energy and stuff is at. And that is where we find where Sephiroth is at. We're not quite sure how he ended up there, but somehow Sephiroth is in this crater. He's in some sort of a hibernation, and all the Sephiroths that we fought at this point aren't really Sephiroth. There's projections of Sephiroth created by Jenova cells, which is why every time he would fly off, we would fight a piece of Jenova. The actual Sephiroth himself, his body anyway, has been in this North Crater the whole time. After whatever it was that happened between Cloud and Sephiroth and their face-off that they had earlier. That being said, Sephiroth has the black materia. He is able to summon Meteor. Cloud gets knocked out into the life stream. The rest of us get arrested by Shinra, and Sephiroth puts some sort of a barrier around the North Crater to protect himself from anybody trying to get in, and we're all kind of kicked out. And we wake up later to find that we are in Shinra captivity. They want to execute the members of Avalanche for everything that's happened, and we have to escape from Shinra. We do, and we have to look around and try to find Cloud. So we'll get into that search for Cloud here in a second. All right, so we're looking for Cloud. We end up finding that there's an area on the world map where the life stream actually kind of is coming out of the ground, being that Cloud fell into the life stream. Maybe, you know, good area to go look at. So we go in, we look, and we do find that Cloud has washed up there. Unfortunately, being exposed to the live stream and the Mako for that long, he is like almost a catatonic state. I mean, he's not able to talk, communicate. Tifa says she's going to stay with him. The rest of our crew go to try to find what is called huge materia that the Shinra company is trying to get, because they want to use the huge materia to put on a rocket and blow up into space and blow up this giant meteor that, thanks to Sephiroth, is now coming at the Earth. They think that if they can blow it up with this huge materia, that it'll stop the meteor from crashing into the Earth. We want to go get the huge materia first because we don't trust Shinra to do anything right and do it the right way, so we go after the huge materia ourselves. In the meantime, we come back at some point, and Tifa and Cloud are with each other, and when a monster attacks the town and knocks both of them down in the life stream. Now, while they're there, they are kind of able to piece together Cloud's memories, and we find that Cloud never actually became the capital S soldier. He was just a tiny grunt that worked for Shinra, and when he did come to Nibelheim in the past, he did come as a soldier. He came as a Shinra guard, completely in uniform, and Tifa never even saw him. The soldier that Cloud was kind of presenting himself as was actually the character of Zack, who was that character who was the former boyfriend of Aerith. So we see how all that history plays out. We do see that at the end, when Sephiroth had hurt Tifa, he had also hurt Zack, and Cloud had run up, and Cloud did have this face-off with Sephiroth. He gets injured in the process, but he is able to use his strength to toss Sephiroth into the life stream, which is how he ends up getting washed over to the North Crater and hibernating there. So, you know, Cloud and Sephiroth's face-off actually ended with Cloud winning. By then going through his memories, kind of piecing together the truth of everything, Cloud is able to wake up, and they escape the live stream, and they're back to normal. Cloud is even better than normal. He's kind of back to his previous self before all of his memory situation went crazy. We'll find out from some other cutscenes that after taking care of Sephiroth, Hojo found him and Zack and experimented on the two of them until they were able to escape. And all the trauma and stuff that he saw, Zack ends up getting killed by Shinra troops just outside of Midgar. Cloud decides to kind of, somehow his memory kind of combines what him and Zack went through to create this version of Cloud that we saw at the beginning of the game. And so that kind of gives you an idea of by the time we started the game, why Cloud was the way that he was and all these mixed memories that he had. But now that we've done this, we've figured out all that stuff. We're doing more side quests, trying to get more huge materia. We go up in the rocket to try to we try to stop the rocket, honestly, because we think that is not going to be successful, and it's just going to make the meteor fall down even more. And the rocket does end up hitting the meteor. Unfortunately, it doesn't do anything. It kind of breaks up into pieces. So now instead of one big meteor, we're going to get hit by quite a few of them. That being said, we end up having to defend the town of Midgar for another monster, and then Hojo is in there, and he's trying to help Sephiroth because he wants to see what's going to happen. He's all about experimenting and stuff. So we go back into Shinra headquarters, this time from the top. We actually jump down from an airship. We find Hojo. We defeat him before he can send more help up to Sephiroth. Luckily, there's the weapon that Shinra had kind of shot towards the North Crater, was able to break that barrier. The barrier's down, and we're going to go ahead and go fight Sephiroth again. All right, so I am breezing through this game right now, but I will say that at this point, this is a great side quest area to go and do any side quests you may miss in the game. There's chocobo breeding, there's chocobo racing. Getting certain kinds of colored chocobos will let you get to different areas in the world where you might be able to get some of the strongest summon materia, some of the strongest like technique kind of materia, things like that. Every character has an ultimate weapon they can go after. They have an ultimate limit break that they can go get. Limit break is kind of a special attack they get once they've been hit enough times. They can unleash this special attack that usually, especially when you get up to some of the higher like ultimate limit breaks, will just wipe things out pretty good. There's a summon attack called Knight of the Round that is one of the strongest summons, magics, anything in any game of Final Fantasy. It hits like 13 times. If you get it leveled up enough, you're hitting like like max damage 13 times. It's pretty good. You can wipe out Sephiroth in like 2 hits with that. But anyway, all the side quest stuff you can do at this point before going ahead and jumping into the North Crater. We're traveling down till we get to where Sephiroth is. We'll battle some more of the Genova cells, and then we'll finally get to Sephiroth himself. He's been infused with this Mako energy, so he's kind of godlike. He kind of reminds me a little bit of the Kefka that we saw at the end of Final Fantasy VI. He has one wing, though. That's why you get the classic music, One Winged Angel, the Sephiroth battle theme, which is another one of those great pieces of music that Nobuo Uematsu created. But you do the Sephiroth battle. You got to battle a few different forms of him. And eventually there's a showdown between just him and Cloud, where Cloud unleashes his ultimate limit break and just wipes Sephiroth out. Now that we've killed Sephiroth, we found out that when Aerith was praying, she was trying to summon the magic skill Holy. And the reason for that is Holy would be able to prevent Meteor from crashing into the Earth. Unfortunately, while Sephiroth was alive, he was keeping that spell from being able to work. Now that we've taken out Sephiroth, all of a sudden Holy starts coming out, Meteor is about to come down and hit the Earth. Holy comes up to it, stops it, pushes it away, and we kind of fade to credits. So what happened? Well, our very post-credit scene is 500 years later. We see Red 13 running around with maybe a couple children of his, grandchildren, not sure. And they run up to where Midgar used to be. And Midgar has been ruined, but it is overgrown with green and vegetation. And you can tell that the planet is healing. So Holy worked. And the planet is on its way back, 500 years later. It's on its way back to being healed. So that's the storyline of Final Fantasy VII. Again, I breezed through it. It is a very big game. All the different things I talked about take quite a bit of a long time. This is a 30 to 40 hour game, depending on how you end up playing it. But you do all the side quests and stuff, you're in for a pretty long one, but it is, it's a classic for a reason. We'll get into a little bit of the legacy of the game here now. All right, so legacy of Final Fantasy VII. Like I said, this is regarded as pretty much a landmark game, one of the most influential games of all time. It is definitely the most well-known and most played of the Final Fantasies. It is the best-selling Final Fantasy game of all time. It sold 9.8 million copies as of 2022. You want to put that into perspective. I think the next one is Final Fantasy VIII, which came out after this, and I think it's 6 point something million. So you're talking a big jump to this game. For many, this is their first Final Fantasy game. Especially in the U.S. and in Japan, Final Fantasy 1 through 6 was definitely big in Japan. The U.S., a lot of us played those games, but it was definitely not the cultural landmark that Final Fantasy is today, mainly because of Final Fantasy VII and how many people played it. This would lead to Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX on the PlayStation as well, Final Fantasy X on the PlayStation 2, Final Fantasy XII on the PlayStation 2. All of these games would be monumentally bigger and better selling games than the 6 that came before. There have been multiple spin-offs of Final Fantasy VII that we'll probably do a rambling on sometime in the future on some of the spin-off games. We will definitely do a rambling on the remake that is still in progress. So what they did is that they remade Final Fantasy VII. The first game came out, and it was just that Midgar section that we had at the very beginning of this game. That's all that part 1 was, and this was Final Fantasy VII Remake. There's a next part coming out, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and that is, we don't know what part of the game is going to take, but that's probably going to not even complete it. We're probably going to have at least a third game after that, I think. Some of the spin-offs even, like Dirge of Cerberus, which focuses on Vincent Valentine, Crisis Core, which focuses it's a prequel focusing on that Zack character. That even got a remake that kind of is lumped into that Final Fantasy VII remake scenario, which what we'll probably do is we'll probably talk about Remake, Rebirth, and then the Crisis Core Reunion, which is the remake of Crisis Core. We'll probably lump that into a rambling in the future. But just know, Final Fantasy VII is still going strong today. We have Crisis Core Union just came out late last year. The second part of the remake, the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, will be out either late this year or early next year, and it is still going. Even though we're all the way up to Final Fantasy 16 now, the legacy of Final Fantasy VII is continuing, and new games are still coming out today. So all that said, Final Fantasy VII is definitely a huge, great game. It is one of my top 5 Final Fantasies for sure. I still place 6 definitely higher. I think 10 for me is also a little higher as well. I can't wait to get to that episode. But Final Fantasy 7 is right up there, and you can definitely see the beginnings of what we would start to think of the modern Final Fantasy. You know, we're not getting the side scrolling little sprites and stuff anymore. We are fully 3D, fully realized characters. Obviously, as we get into better systems with better graphics and stuff like that, we'll continue. But this was definitely the footstep, the stepping stone to the heights that Final Fantasy would achieve going forward. So the legacy is there. It is definitely one of the most influential games, as it's been called, and yeah, very excited to have talked about that. We will continue with Final Fantasy VIII will be our next mainline entry. We'll probably take a break in between because right around this time, the Final Fantasy Tactics game came out. And so I'm probably going to do a little rambling episode about the Tactics and some of the Tactics sequels that came out to that on the Game Boy Advance as well. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll get back into our mainline game probably here in a couple weeks. So that'll be Final Fantasy VIII, which I'm also excited to talk about. A lot of fun stuff there. So thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again soon.